That'll be on your screen all night in the ticker there on the bottom, and then we'll scroll through the races by state. We'll look at Senate races, some House races, and governor's races as well. We're back with our panel here in studio. I think, Britt, they're still talking about the economy in that other studio. I think they're pretty much.
I kind of wish we missed it.
We just dip in.
Well, they were talking a lot more substance than when we heard on the campaign trail when it came in. They're absolutely right. I mean, we did not have a good debate, for instance, over economic issues, and it clearly is the number one issue on people's minds. Brett?
You know, we didn't really get into policy. I'm keeping an eye here on what are called the non-MAGA Republican voters.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of discussion over the past several years about whether the anti-Trump Republican, the Never Trump movement, would end up mattering. Our voter analysis memos tells us that if she wins, that will be the decisive factor. I'm not quite sure I buy that, but it's interesting that. And I think that what we have here, and the fact that the Trump campaign has made such an effort to turn out these low propensity voters, that is to say, what we might call unlikely voters, that might be how they plan to make up the difference among Republican voters that they might lose.
I think that has been the strategy, right? I mean, Kellyanne?
Sure. Well, we've said all night and all week, well, gee, we don't know anything. Well, here's what we do know, that the two parties had a primary season and only one party participated in it, the Republicans. We had a lot of strong men and I think at least one woman running in the Republican primary. One candidate and a super PAC spent $250 million to get 9 electoral votes. Another woman got 97 electoral votes. They spent over $100 million. I like them all very much. I'm glad they're part of the party. Donald Trump has expanded this party. Good candidates expand their party demographically, geographically. Florida, Iowa, Ohio, these are states President Obama won twice with well over 50% of the vote. We don't even talk about them as swing states anymore. He's going to get 1 million extra votes in Florida potentially tonight. So I have to push back a little bit about, is it this disaffected Republican? Every time there's a Republican of note, of name out there that goes and supports Kamala Harris, Liz Cheney and John Kelly and this, everybody just has to cover, the mainstream media has to cover it. They're missing the big story, which is the millions, maybe tens of millions of would-be, could-be, have-been Democrats voting for Donald Trump. They're rank and file people. They don't have big names. They're not going to go on MSNBC and crow about it and go campaign with Kamala Harris. They're showing up today, and they're showing up early. And the fact that he has converted this into the party of the worker, and he has told Americans not everybody has to be stuffed into a 4-year college degree, that the welders, the steel workers in Pennsylvania, the coal miners, they've got a seat at the table. They can work again. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And she's not doing that. She's not winning black men. Folks, Barack Obama did not help her bridge this gap, at least in Georgia so far. We'll see in Michigan,
Jessica, we will see that because that blue wall will really tell us something. But it is changing. The party's changing. There's a lot of Reagan Democrats in this coalition. One of the things to note right now at this hour, we have not called the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Right. It is a lot closer than people thought it would be. You know, the Trump campaign did a stop in Virginia. They thought it was closing. We're not calling it yet.
No, not yet. And we'll see when that happens. My expectation is still that Kamala Harris will win it. But I understand that President Trump ran an unorthodox campaign in terms of where he went and certainly the things that he was saying. And that's really what I'm paying attention to and what's gone on in Florida. Now, that's great for him, a feather in his cap. Ron DeSantis has done incredible work to make Florida a place that a lot of my own liberal friends are happy to be living. But that is inefficient vote when you are trying to become president. And Donald Trump went to a lot of places, like having a rally here at Madison Square Garden, going to Coachella to give a rally, spending time in New Mexico, which he lost twice. And I think that if Kamala Harris is victorious tonight, there should be some examination of why those campaign stops happened and if his time would have been better spent parked in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Arizona, and one of the blue wall states that he has to pick up, Pennsylvania, for sure.
We've got to go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see how that inefficient vote it's a real issue, and we have to see whether or not it actually pans out. And one of the reasons he went to New York and New Mexico and were these House races. I mean, there are House races in all of those places. So. And she did the same thing in places as well.
Hold on. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with the panel, and we're going to dig into a lot of these numbers. Major poll closings coming up. We'll get our first look at Arizona. Remember Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin? This is Fox News Democracy 24 marches on.
The votes are in. The next president of the United States is...
My kingdom does not belong to this world. Repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God.
Jesus, we trust in you. Amen.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on Deal Dad.